Brian Cox handed himself in to local police.
All right, why don't you tell me what happened?
I went outside to try and calm him down.
You can't come in, Susie. You can't.
He tried to get past me. I tried to stop him. He stepped back and I saw the blood.
I didn't mean to cut you, mate. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
He ran off. I just panicked. I ran away.
Brian Cox said he had been holding the knife as he was trimming a carpet at Carey's house. But detectives did not believe Brian Cox's account of a struggle that ended in Mark's accidental death.
Against the back wall, you had the dock with Brian Cox and Susan Webb standing alongside each other, but not looking at each other. From the way they behaved in court, you wouldn't think that they knew each other. There was no sign of a loving relationship there.
Over the course of the investigation, detectives had discovered Susan Webb was not Brian Cox's only lover. After the altercation in the alleyway, Brian Cox had sought help from Dawn Coates, the other woman in his life.
Just like Susan, Brian had an ex-partner, and that ex-partner was Dawn Coates. Dawn had a non-molestation order out against Brian, but the two of them were trying to get the relationship back together again, and he'd bought her an engagement ring.
That's beautiful.
So there you have a love triangle centered around Brian, with Susan, the new woman who was desperately trying to make the relationship between her and Brian work, and Brian, who was doing his best to revive an old relationship.
After handing himself to the police, Brian Cox was charged with Mark's murder. As Brian Cox gave evidence at trial, he maintained his account that Mark Webb had been accidentally cut during their altercation.
I didn't mean to do it. It was an accident.
Brian's version was that he went out into the courtyard to essentially calm down the situation.
Sorry, mate. You can't come in. Susie doesn't want to see you.
You can't bloody tell me what to do. Get out! Get out!
And that he didn't realise he had a Stanley knife with him when he went out there. And that he'd used his doorman's techniques to restrain Mark, and by that had accidentally cut him.
I didn't mean to cut you, mate.
He claimed that when he saw the cut, he told Mark that he would help him, and Mark refused the help. And he then says he left.
I just ran. It was the stupidest decision I've ever made.
He was doing his very best to paint it as a complete accident. But it was clear from the pathologist's report that this was not an accident.
That's not two people fighting. That is one person causing injury. Once these injuries are sustained, you are going to start to bleed heavily. The two carotid arteries carry about 1/4 of your body's blood supply to your brain. So you are talking about torrential bleeding.
As Mark Webb staggered the 61 metres to his former marital home, Brian Cox fled the scene, running to his friend Mark Johnson's house. Mark Johnson told the court that Brian had appeared looking flustered and panicked. He made a point of not touching anything or shaking his friend's hand.
He came at me with a knife. I turned it on him.
He tells a friend, "I've done something stupid. I've slit someone's throat." Brian Cox just doesn't seem to have known what to do.
Look, I need you to take my jacket.
No way, mate.
The court asked Mark Johnson if he gave any advice to Brian Cox, to which he replied, "Do the right thing and turn yourself in."
After the friend tells him, "You've got to hand yourself in," Brian decides no and goes to the house of his ex-partner, Dawn Coates. So he goes round to Dawn's house He gives her his jacket to clean, doesn't tell her why. She gives him another jacket.
I'll be back later.
Dawn told police that she had washed the jacket that Brian had been wearing as she had done numerous times before.